Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's crafting edition of the Wellness Homesteader, so that is why my table is such a mess. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Kim. I love to do all things crafting, but I also homestead on a very small scale, grow a lot of my own food, have chickens, try to be as self-sufficient as possible, have a lot of good content coming up that isn't craft related if crafts aren't your thing. However, I wanted to share this with you, y'all. I'm so bad at this. You know how a lot of YouTubers insert these lovely pictures? Well, I don't know how to do that. So, this is eBay. The ring light. And see all these lovely vintage paper mache buckets, I guess you would say, or decorations. So the one by my pinky here is a vintage Halloween paper mache pumpkin jack-o'-lantern with the original insert. So years ago, they would make paper mache Halloween spooky things, and then there was a piece of paper you could slide in to change like the eyes or somewhat the expression on the item's face. So there's cats, there's devils, no devils in this house. But this cutie is $149. Can y'all see that? Well, it's probably backwards, but anyway, I got to thinking and I thought, how hard can it be, right? I'm sure I can do it. I'm gonna set y'all. So I want you to stay tuned because we're gonna take a little Dollar Tree, $1.25 tree, glass jar. We're gonna make a couple really cute vintage style, paper mache style, but they're not paper mache. We're gonna make a pumpkin and what I'm gonna call a ghost. And as you all know, I believe in community above competition. I actually got this idea from another channel, Christopher Heidemann. If y'all have he won't know who I am. I've watched him for a very long time because he is also very into Halloween, but he does amazing fall and Christmas decor. I mean, it's amazing. He's a very talented artist as well. So he made these, so I'm gonna kind of copy what he did. So come along with me. So here are the items you will need for the project. So these are the 2 jars that I purchased from the Dollar Tree. I really wanted ones that were completely round like a globe, but I could not find them. So these have a flat face and, some details so you can sit them like this or like this. They would be cute like this for candy, but that's not what we're going to use them for. And I'm amazed. They actually packed them in tissue paper. And I paid $1.25 each for these. The second thing you're going to need, and yes, I am saving this tissue for crafting, y'all, is you're going to need just some plain brown tissue paper, not packing paper. So I use this in my soap business and my sewing business. So this was something that I actually had to reorder because I was a little bit low. But let me show you how thin. So, you can see my hand through it. So let's just grab a couple sheets of that to get started. So we have our jars. We have our tissue paper. You're also going to need some Mod Podge, brushes to apply with, some, where did I put it? Okay, here. Some chalk paint in both white and orange. I do not have orange chalk paint, so I am going to mix yellow and red and make my own orange. Some brushes for the detail of painting the faces, and then just a variety of acrylic paints in those fall colors to do our faces. So I am going to actually mute myself. First thing I'm going to do is pull these Blad Nabbit, sounded like a cartoon, stickers off. That is one of my pet peeves. I do not understand why. Oh, look how easy that came off. Why they put on stickers like, you know, they're never going to come off. And I will also save the lids to these. I'm not sure why, but that's how I roll. So I'm going to speed myself up and just kind of show you here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush. I'm going to put some Mod Podge on the jar first. Then I'm going to tear pieces of tissue paper. And personally, I don't like the sharp edges. I think your project comes out better without those. Just my personal opinion. But this is like because I'm an extra. And then I'm going to apply it till my whole jar is thickly coated. Stay tuned. You'll see I'm in fast motion here, and I am just tearing up the tissue paper and painting on some Mod Podge, layering on the tissue, and then covering it with more Mod Podge. That's really the best way to get it to stick, and it will dry pretty quickly, so don't worry if you have to add additional layers of Mod Podge. It all dries clear and comes out fine in the end. The biggest struggle I had was getting it into the grooves for the screw top lid, so if you choose a jar that does. All right, we have our 2 jars, whoops, well coated. And invariably you have to sit it on one of the sides, so that popped up a little bit. Don't worry about wrinkles. I will probably choose the less wrinkled side to do my face painting, but here you have it. And you may have to let this dry and then add a little bit more for any of the tissue paper that pops up. And I did cover all of the threads as well. So I'm going to let this dry. You can use a heat gun, you can use a blow dryer, but I'm going to let it air dry and see what we come up with. Might have to touch it up a little bit, but I'll bring you back when it's time to start the fun, which is painting the faces. Stay tuned. So if you're good at painting freehand, it's not a problem to just do this, you know, straight up with the paintbrush. I'm not so good at that. So I decided I would first draw on the faces. And I'm opening up here some white chalk paint. I did find that the chalk paint went on smoother and actually did a lot better than trying to just use straight up acrylic craft paint. However, I did end up using the craft paint when I get to painting the pumpkin. And yes, as usual, I had a terrible time getting the lid off. Oh my goodness. So I just use a plastic lid or a paper plate to serve as a paint palette, and I'm just dumping out some of that white paint. And the easiest way I found to actually get the paint on the jars is to put your hand in the jar and start by painting the bottom first. It does dry relatively quickly. I don't know if you all can hear Frankie's helping me with the voiceover, and he is in the background just purring away because I'm having to pet him because he can't stand it if I'm not paying attention to him. Now, some of you who are new to the channel may notice throughout the video that I sometimes do things with my right hand, sometimes left. And yes, I'm aware that I do that. I tried really hard to just use one hand for this because for whatever reason it seems to really bother people. And I always get strange comments about it. But I am somewhat ambidextrous, so it's easy for me to just switch back and forth, which comes in really handy if you have a sore hand. So you can see I'm just going around painting, and you will find where there are wrinkles in your tissue paper, sometimes the brush wants to skip over those areas and leave like a blank spot. So that's why I continue to turn it, also go over the same spot multiple times. If the edges of your tissue paper have a tendency to lift, and sometimes they will when they get wet with paint, don't despair, because at the end of this project, we are going to coat everything with a nice heavy coat of Mod Podge. And you could also spray it with some clear acrylic spray of some sort. So I'm just assessing here which side I think looks the smoothest. And once I got my hand in there, it was hard to just rotate the jar without goofing up the tissue paper at the top. So I just simply twisted my arm around. And again, if you could find a perfectly round jar, it might work a little easier, but I thought these were just darling in the way they turned out, and I don't regret that at all. So at this point, I'm starting to paint the face, and I really should have used a smaller brush, the more detailed brush than what I was using, because what I found is it's not really easy to erase. You want to leave the eyes and the mouth, and when we get to the pumpkin, the nose, you want to leave those just with the tissue paper showing, because when we put a tea light in at the end, it will actually look much more like a glowing jack-o'-lantern or glowing ghost, or this is actually supposed to be a moon, but I think it looks a lot more like a ghost. So I'm just finishing up here on the areas I have not covered. I probably should have fast forwarded this, guys, or I mean, played it double time. I did find that you could remove the paint if you got it into an area you didn't want paint by just using a wet paper towel. It did leave a bit of paint residue, but if you need to erase, that's the only way I knew how to do it. So there we have our ghost face. Thankfully, I did film this in fast speed or fast motion on the pumpkin. And again, I did use acrylic paint. What I found was it did not cover as well. It took a lot more brush strokes. So I'm just showing you the acrylic paint there. But it still came out fine. So while our pumpkins are drying, I thought I would make a cute little treat. And I have some of this Okios 000 yogurt and some sprinkles. And I'm just putting this on a silpat. You could certainly use wax paper, but you want something where it won't stick. So give your yogurt a really good stir. This is a Greek yogurt, and I just chose vanilla flavored, but you could use any flavor that doesn't highly color the yogurt. So I am going to grab a spatula here to smooth these out, but first I am just going to place some pretty good sized spoonfuls of the yogurt after I stirred it very, very well. You don't want it, to have any runny or separated parts at all. And I'm just placing them on the silpat. And then I'm taking my spatula and I'm shaping it into sort of a teardrop shape to look like a ghost. So I know I've been sharing on my channel some pretty creepy looking treats and different ideas for parties, which I like all of the creepy, almost gross looking things, but these are super cute, would be great for kiddos, and it's something that even littles could help with. I ended up getting, I think, 7 or 8 ghosts out of this. So it did make, quite a few. They do have to be frozen, and I'll give you a little tip. If you bring them out and leave them out at room temperature for any length of time, they want to return to their yogurt state. So if you're serving these at a party, you're probably going to have to lay them over a bed of ice to keep their shape. So again, I'm just shaping them into that ghost shape. And you could actually do, any shape that you wanted. You could do bats, whatever you like for Halloween or whatever your kids are really into, or grandkids. This was such a quick, easy, and inexpensive treat. I really enjoyed doing it. So I found these sprinkles at Walmart. Half of the jar are just the little balls, colored balls, and the other half are actually eyeballs, green eyeballs and white eyeballs. Now, if you can't find sprinkles like this, I actually saw this, I think, on another channel or perhaps in a magazine, and they used mini chocolate chips for the eyes, and they actually made a mouth by using a regular sized chocolate chip but turning it over so it was just a big circle, and that was really cute as well. Not being a huge fan of chocolate, I was content with just the sprinkles because, yes, indeed, I'm going to eat these kitty treats myself. Frankie likes yogurt, so he may want some too. So on some I did green eyes, some I did the white eyes, some I did one of each, and one I put three eyes. So you could make these however you want. I really like the fact that I could find the eyeballs at Walmart, and it was the Walmart brand, so it was like, I think, $1.98 for the jar of sprinkles, and they'd be great for cupcakes or any of your other Halloween type decorating. So I'm just putting away my extra eyeballs. And oh, excuse my reach, y'all. Then for the final touch, I'm using the multicolored sprinkles, and I'm just putting it on the tail of the ghost, to add some crunch and just some visual interest. And these are orange, purple, and a green color. So here I'm just giving you a final look before I pop them into the freezer. And they were frozen solid very, very quickly. So now we're back to painting. And I am going to do the detail work. And this could really be done however you like it best. What I will say is I started out using a thicker brush. And I also had a lot of trouble, for whatever reason, telling if the brush was wet enough with paint without being too wet, but using a very fine detail brush, which I eventually switched to, made it much, much easier. One thing you will notice is when you're painting with a fine detail brush, it will want to skip or hop over the areas where there are wrinkles in your tissue paper that you Mod Podged on. So you may have to go in one direction, then go in the other direction. So I just outlined the eyes of the little, and we're just going to call it a ghost. Yeah, having trouble with that paint, y'all. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be able to finish the video or not because I was just not feeling it all well, and with all of the virus drama that has been going around, and it's still very high in my area. I always get worried whenever I get congested that, oh no, I've got something serious, but y'all, it's truly just ragweed season problems. So you could put these details on however you like. I do think outlining the area Here you're going to see me switch brushes because I just needed something finer. And I don't recommend you put the other brush in your mouth like I did. I just realized I did that instead of sticking it in the glass of water. But outlining the areas where the light is going to shine through when you put the tea light in just really makes them pop. And the light will shine through those areas much more, of course, because it doesn't have the opaque or semi-opaque paint over top. So in the center of the mouth, I just made a little swirl. I did do a tiny little nose. I don't know if ghosts have noses, but mine does. I probably should have poured the paint out onto a plate, but I struggled through. I was on the struggle bus, guys. So for the eyes, I kind of wanted him to be looking like off to the side. So I did leave a small pupil area open for the light to shine through. And again, I need some bigger or stronger or brighter tea lights than what I have. But sometimes you use what you have and you make it work. I could probably put 2 in the bottom and it would actually be brighter. So our ghost face is starting to take shape. You can see in the background our orange pumpkin is drying and he's ready for his face to look a little more spooky. Again, y'all, I apologize. I should have sped this up. Sometimes I get into what I'm doing and I don't really pay attention to the camera. And yeah, this is kind of like watching paint dry in a way. One thing I did is I tried to put some lines around the mouth, like, to indicate the ghost is going, whoo. And I put eyebrows on. I put some laugh lines because, of course, a ghost is going to have some laugh lines. So you can see here I'm having some trouble with the paint wanting to skip over wrinkles. So again, just paint in one direction, then flip it around, paint in the other. So I'm just going to be quiet here and let you watch me finish painting the ghost face.
Now that I've allowed that detail painting to dry, I'm going to take some matte finish Mod Podge and a little bit of brown chalk paint, and I'm going to mix that together. And then I'm going to give a good coat to both of our glass jars here. And what you'll notice after you've put all your paint on, you will have a few areas, or I had a few areas, where maybe the edge wasn't as firmly adhered to the glass as I would like. So I am going to cover it. And the reason I added the little bit of brown chalk paint is because, yes, and I got too much, so a little bit more Mod Podge. I wanted to add sort of an antiqued or vintage look to both of these items, and it really did dull down that bright white of the ghost and made it look a little more old-fashioned, a little more vintage.
So lots of spooky Halloween fun creating these today. The pumpkin's definitely my favorite. I could use a little bit brighter battery operated tea lights. And then in front here, I have our cute little ghost treats, which I'll show you in better lighting. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and you'll excuse my allergy issue that I'm having. Ragweed in Ohio, not fun. I think these turned out absolutely adorable. They're still a little tiny bit wet, but as you see, the brown plus the Mod Podge just gave it sort of a vintagey antique look. And then here is the moon slash ghost. I would call this a ghost. And our delicious and healthy ghostly treats. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you'd give me a thumbs up. Drop me a comment below. Are you going to try either of these projects? The little ghosts made from yogurt are so simple and so delicious. I know there's food coloring in the sprinkles, but I didn't put that much, and you could always pick them off if you're not into eating food coloring. I will see you all again on Thursday. Hopefully I will sound a little better. Started out pretty good, but it's very windy today and our pollen counts are super high. So welcome to Ohio in the fall. All right. So until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed. Take care.